How you doing, Nance? Oh, I can't hear you.
Just unmuted.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Now you should be able to, do you?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Good. Yeah. Keeping busy.
You always look like you're busy every time I see you
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
riding some machine down the street.
Well, I gotta think about retirement for the second time. You know, just trying to find someone, take my place.
You have to train them.
Yeah. It took me 3 years to learn everything, you know. So see what they come up with.
So then you have to start teaching someone for 3 years now.
Yeah. Hmm. That's my daughter. Yeah.
I don't think this should be a long meeting.
No, did you go to the finance committee meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah. How'd it go?
they sound like they're pretty understanding.
Yeah. Hmm. I'm reading my Yankee magazine. Yeah,
I have that one too. I
they're good
like
on
that
it.
magazine.
Yeah.
That one's has some cool houses in it.
Yeah.
I'm glad Paul sent around the link. Hi, Austin.
How you doing, Nancy?
I'm
Hey,
okay.
Dave.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Doing well.
Good.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
good. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. So we have Austin, we have Dave.
Right.
That's a good start.
We need a few more for a quorum.
There's Paul. We're
Hi,
inching
Lynn.
up there. We're inching along here.
Okay. And what did you want us to look at? Do you want us to look at any documents tonight? Sorry.
Yes, the volume 7 cleaned up version that I sent this afternoon.
Okay, wait a minute. I see one at 2:15 p.m. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. And there's
Okay.
2 versions. Use the one that's marked clean because I actually accepted the edits.
Okay, these are buried at the bottom of a tremendous list of emails. All right, so one is, I can't tell which one is marked clean. Let's see. Now I can see it. Yes, I can. Okay, and that's the one, correct?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So let's see, what do I want to do? I think I want to download it first,
Mhm.
and then I will add it to CPC articles, documents,
Okay.
CPC articles. And this one, oh, okay.
So while you're sort of muttering your way through this, let me
Yeah,
call this meeting to order because we now have this is Lynn Spencer, Chairman of Community Preservation. Joining me tonight in our meeting is Nancy Catalmo, Dave Wilson, Ellen Goldberg, Austin Antrim, Paul Spurn. I see Dana is also on the call.
Yeah, Dana Sheehan.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, Dana. Okay, and so what I'd like to do is to pull up the articles. Yes, volume 7. I'd like to have you scroll to number 6, please.
are you still seeing it, Lynn?
I am.
Oh,
Marvelous.
wonderful,
It's
wonderful.
wonderful.
Okay,
It's wonderful.
it's beyond belief, really, is what it is.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
oops. I think you went a little too far. So go back to the beginning of 6.
There it is.
So I brought you all together because last Monday, several of us met with FinCom. I think on that call, I was there, Nancy, Paul as well, and I think also Austin. It was clear to me that even though we had sent our articles in advance to the chairman of the committee as well as our 2 liaisons, it was also clear to me that the folks on FinCom were only seeing them for the first time that night. So we had quite a conversation. And one of the ones that really sort of was most involved has to do with the public library bond. And so the edits that you're seeing on the screen are ones that came out of that discussion. And you'll see, first of all, we just want to make it clear that for this potential $700,000 bond, $200,000 of that is actually being offset by free cash, which will have to be approved in a prior article. And then the actual cost of the bond will be $500,000. I've included a phrase that says, okay, if this moves ahead, that first cost of the first year cost of $78,500 is, included in this article. In the supporting statement, and I understand that while we try to portray the whole picture of this story of the public library and CPC for the last few years, it's a lot to read, and people don't necessarily read it all. So that one of the things we agreed was to make a very clear statement of what would be the preservation priorities for this investment. And so that's how I've actually sort of I've added that section where it becomes very clear. And these would be actually undertaken in the order that they're listed. So first call is ensuring a weather-tight enclosure. Second call on that money is replacing the knob and tube with modern code mandated electrical wiring. Third is to augment the electrical service capacity, which is anticipating perhaps future improvements. Next is replacing the fire detection system to modern standards. And then last is installing a fire suppression system. So I'll just kind of give everyone a pause. Yes, Ellen. Yeah.
I have a personal reason for asking this, but what is the fuel source for the heat in the building? The reason I ask is, do you need carbon monoxide detectors?
It might be oil, Ellen. Sorry, this is Dana.
Okay,
There's an oil tank filler tube to the left of the side entrance the entrance on Pleasant Street. I don't know if that's what they're using now, but that's what I've seen. So just throwing it out there. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Dana. That's fine. I'm hesitating because I honestly, I'm not sure if it was converted to gas. But
either way, it's
anyway,
a fossil fuel. Yeah,
and either way, it's a fossil fuel, and sure, a carbon, monoxide detector makes a lot of sense. The fire detection system, there is one in there already. What it doesn't have is what's called an addressable panel, so that firefighters entering the building could look at the panel and see where there's a problem. So I just want you to know, yes, there is a system there. It's just not, up to the standards that we would
do you want
really
to,
expect.
instead of saying installing a fire suppression system, do you want to say upgrading it to modern standards?
Why say replacing it?
Yeah, replacing it, so because on that last bullet, it says installing a fire suppression system.
That's different. A fire suppression system is a sprinkler system.
Oh, okay. So which bullet were you just talking about? Oh, replacing the fire detection. There we go. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
was looking at the
that's
wrong
all
one.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. Yep. So these are thoughts that I wanted to add to this. This goes back to all of our articles go back to FinCom on Thursday. But I certainly wanted this committee, who has been so involved with this, to have the opportunity to look at this. And there's a couple of other tweaks that we'll look at in a moment, which are highlighted in yellow as well.
May
Paul,
I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you think it is a true fact to say that if we did not do these upgrades, the building might not be able to be used for safety reasons?
No, I wouldn't. The answer is no. I would not say that's a true fact.
Okay.
So Lynn, on these upgrades we're gonna do with the electrical and the fire alarm and the sprinkler system, so one of the questions is, what's our insurance? I mean, is it gonna go down or is it gonna go up? Because we're not up to code right now. So
Right.
I feel that we gotta get this stuff done, possibility, if there is something that happens, that we are fully insured.
Yes, I think you are right. Right now our insurance covers the building as it is now. If we are able to afford a fire suppression system, a sprinkler system as part of this, it may have an effect on the insurance cost. It probably would have a positive effect, reducing the cost, because it's another form of protection. I think that the
Replacing
FinCom's,
knob and tube wouldn't have any impact?
no,
Okay,
not in a real sense.
okay.
I think FinCom's concern was the same concern that we all have shared. And that is, do we have a real handle on the needs of the building and the associated costs? And all I can say is that the library had commissioned a master plan that was published in 2019, where engineers were brought into the building by Richard Smith, the consulting architect who was organizing all this. A cost estimate was prepared by a professional cost estimator for this work. And so, that document existed. This past few months, the library has commissioned Richard to update that master plan, which he has done with some further space planning recommendations. What he did with the cost estimates is to actually use a multiplier on them. So, that's always, especially in, I have to say, what is a fairly volatile market, costs are a concern. And that's why I think our committee, as well as FinCom, is saying, look, first things first, take care of the building, stop the leaking. Next, deal with the knob and tube, and so on. I think everybody is also very aware that there are other needs, and Dana just mentioned one. We have a steam heating system, which has that's an original system in terms of its distribution, its piping, and so on. The boilers have been changed at least once in, the last 100-odd years, but it too is a system that its future is limited. How's that? So our committee is not able to provide any, in my estimation, is not able to provide any more funding than we already have. I see nodding heads. We are retiring to make all of this work. We are retiring one of the library bonds. We are doing some financing on the other two bonds. We're starting this one, but it's just clear that we don't have the capacity with our other obligations to undertake any more funding than we already have in front of us. The library trustees are very aware of that and are actively involved in, preparing for a capital campaign. Sorry, I think Town Hall wants to speak.
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
I just saw this. I saw your
No,
screen.
town hall's computer is
Oh, okay.
behaving badly.
All right.
Lynn, are you looking for a motion to accept the article as you've changed it, altered it?
Thank you. I am.
Okay, I will make that motion to
Is there a
accept
second to
the
that?
article as amended.
How do
I'll
we
s-
prove to people that the percentage addition on that Richard Smith made is a valid way to understand what the cost most likely will be? Because we last time when, like with the porch, they had to come back to us for more money, and we can't do that.
I appreciate that, Nancy. And I think what Richard has done is something that I do see as an industry, in my work, I see myself doing that kind of thing with cost estimates. I think the only thing we can say is when it goes to bid, then we'll know what the costs are. And when it goes into a project, then we'll know what the costs are. That's why these things will be tackled one after the other. So
Right.
we'll first deal with the envelope work, where that was estimated by him at something like $270,000 with an $80,000 series of add alternates and contingency. So that I think is, he brought in masons to open up the walls. He really had looked at that as thoroughly as I think is possible. In terms of these other costs, I think, he used what was derived in 2019 by professional cost estimators. That's a reasonable way of doing it. It's reasonable to use the escalator that he used, which I think was something like 28%. But yeah,
Can I
so
ask one more? can
it's
I
not perfect.
Lynn,
Yeah.
can I interrupt for a minute? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having a lot of trouble with my computer, and I think it may crash any second.
Okay.
So I don't know what happens in that case to the rest of the meeting. The second thing I don't know what happens is how you'll be able to see the document. So the one thing you can do is see if Ellen can set up the document in case you lose my access. And
Okay.
if I go down, I don't really know. You people
Tell you
were
what,
on
hey,
before I
Paul,
got on. Yeah.
Paul, why don't you make me the host right now? That way, if you crash, we don't disconnect.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
That's a great way of doing it.
The problem is it's not responding at all to my commands.
Let me see if I
So,
can request being host from you. Hang on.
okay, fine.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening here.
I think we just lost him.
It
So we
says,
did.
it says you are the host now.
Oh, really? Me?
That popped up on mine. I
Mine
think
just
it's
said
referring
Nancy
to
is the
you,
host.
Ellen. Not me.
It says Nancy is the host.
No, it just came up.
The message I got said Nancy was now the host.
Delete me from host.
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna go into my email and see. Was that an email you sent out today, Lynn?
Yes, at 2:15.
Okay, hang on. Give me a minute, and I gotta close a bunch of work stuff. You just trust me, you don't want to see.
I'll match you and raise you.
All right, so yeah, 2:15. Let me download this thing and then I'll share my if it will allow me to share my screen. That's gonna be the question. So there's two docs. There's two docs here on this email.
Yes, there's one that showed the track changes, and that was for Allison's particular use. And there's one the second one is the clean copy. Both will work. One will just show track changes.
Hang on. Sorry, it's taking me a minute. I just got the two of them downloaded. Okay, I'm gonna so which one do you want me to open?
The one that says clean, the second one.
Yep, I got that. All right. Hang on. So
That's
now I have
great.
it open. Now let's see if I can share my screen.
Okay.
Are we good?
It said you started screen sharing.
Are you
So
seeing?
it's showing, I can see it.
Yeah,
Good. So the only other question I have is whether or not this is still recording this meeting. And if that's an issue, because I know it doesn't say, like when I look at the panel, there's a record option. So I don't know if it's still recording or what. Do you
Ellen,
want me-
mine says it's still recording up in the top right-hand corner.
All right, great. Then we're good. So thank you, Austin. So where were we? We were on number 6. And how do you want me to save this as a new name in case we have any other changes?
It's saved as volume. Same
What?
thing it's saved as volume 7.
Right, no, but I just meant for tonight. I'll just do that in case we have any changes to make.
Okay.
We might not. Okay, so here we are.
Okay, so I think that we had a motion and I think it had been seconded and we were in further discussion about the motion. Nancy had raised the question about, how can we be confident in these cost estimates? Was there another way of doing it? I think I responded as well as I could. I think the main thing that we're emphasizing here is these projects will be let for construction by Richard Smith will serve as the architect developing the plans and specs. Oh, but the other thing that is actually being added to this is that there will be an owner's project manager retained, who will, together, they will be responsible for fiscal accountability and quality control.
Is there a salary for that position?
Yes, there will be. It will actually come out of this. Normally, Nancy, in my world, those fees can be 3% of the actual construction cost. So if the actual construction cost is $700,000, it could take $21,000 out of the budget. Tony has spoken with a woman that he's worked with before. She's a consulting engineer based in Beverly. Her name is Vicky Masson. And I think it is his feeling that that is a very prudent way of proceeding. Partly to actually, it won't actually eliminate additional costs, but it will certainly monitor those things very closely. I want to go back to that terrace situation again, because I think that is obviously was a very troubling project. But I will say that from my perspective, from both observing it during construction and also before construction, is that a lot of that was unseen, structural work. It was concealed by the deck. And once that deck, that sort of terracotta tile deck was exposed, there was a lot of steel that had to be replaced. So yes, it did bump that project quite considerably. And we talk about it in this narrative, by the way.
But we got reassurances that the survey that he did should not have surprises like that.
Well, if wishes were fishes. Yes, I get it. I get it. We would like to eliminate any surprises. But for instance, there can be surprises in actually the snaking in of wires, removing wires and snaking in new wires.
Well, yeah, I can definitely vouch for all of that. I've done a lot of work to my house recently.
Yeah.
I did have a question though about that. Because I know you said the bulleted list is going not just in order of priority, but it's like one at a time, right? So you'll work on weatherproofing first, then you'll do the knob and tube, then you'll augment, right? You'll do all this. I guess, is there a chance that you would look at, and maybe this is me getting too into the weeds, but do you look at this and say, well, you're going to be putting conduit in, right? To run wires. Are you going to be putting, you're going to have the walls open, you're going to snake stuff through. If you're going to install a fire suppression system, can you run pipes at the same time? Right. Or anything else would have to have wiring done. Wouldn't you want to do it while you had holes and snakes in there already?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay. So they're going to try and figure that out, and not be penny wise, pound foolish, etc. Right?
I would say that is very true. I think that between, the town manager, the owner's project manager, and the architects, there's going to be a lot of eyes looking on this. Now, we can also say CPC wants to be in those meetings. We can say, oh yeah, everyone's say, raise your hand.
I raise it now, but I'm going to leave it to the people who are involved.
Well, I see Dave raising his hand. I mean, we can ask to be at, at job meetings, at pivotal meetings.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it's fascinating. I just don't think I personally have the time, although I'd
Can
love.
we ask for reports at various intervals?
yes, we can certainly do that, Nancy. We certainly can do that.
So
I
Lynn,
think that, yes,
the-
yes, Dave.
when we did the Spindrift over, so I was a representative from the board to,
Mhm.
go along with the inspectors, and we had a meeting every week
Yep.
for our updates, and I think that's a good idea, so then we can tell the public what's going on, because they're
Yeah,
gonna see contractors up there.
it's certainly, Dave, and I think in the meetings for this project, I think it probably would be a weekly meeting. And the Spindrift project was a very complicated project because you were installing an addition with an elevator. This has its own complications. In terms of the impacts of the wiring replacement and the fire detection system, I agree conceptually those two would link very closely together. And I think that in terms of putting the bid documents together, they probably would be organized that way, and perhaps just broken out by line item. The one that I find most challenging, quite honestly, is the fire suppression system. And it is it is, in my estimation, probably a reach, because you have to install a new water line, and then you're actually running piping.
Right.
Hard piping throughout that building.
Yeah.
So I know that
Lynn,
everyone,
last night
Yep.
I was in the Serenity Room listening to that concert and noticing the sprinkler lines in the ceiling. They're all external in that room. I presume external lines are much less expensive to run. How unsettling would it be if we heard that the only way they can come anywhere close to affording putting a sprinkler system in was to put in one on the surface?
I'll defer to my betters on that. Folks, what do you think about that? Because I'm chewing my lips on that. I just want to say this, Paul. The system that is in this building, and Dave, you were probably around when it was installed. It was installed after the building was abandoned as a school, and it was, I will say, it was just slapped in. So,
Mhm.
it's functional, it does its job, but the public library deserves better. And so what you would be doing you can do side mounted throws, you can do a lot of things other than running pipes over your head.
My personal opinion is that Lynn and there's a couple of other people, I think Austin and Dave are real experts in this particular area, and I 100% defer to their professional opinions on this.
Yeah.
Like
Austin,
yeah,
I'd love to hear from you, Austin.
I think, if they do get to the point where they believe they may be ready to install a fire suppression system, that would be designed by engineers who specialize in that, working with the trustees who could, guide them as to placement to make it as inconspicuous as possible. While I was working in Virginia on a historic house there, they installed a sprinkler system, and that building had masonry walls as well. So I did see a little bit how that's done. But that was, that wasn't a library, so the walls weren't covered with books. So the engineers will have a lot of calculations based on the fuel load in there because of the books, I think. That will probably drive the locations of the sprinklers.
Yeah. So was that Madison's place?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you worked on that. Yeah, I mean, what happens is these systems get designed by engineers. Then the sprinkler company, who is lucky enough to get the award, has to come back with their shop drawings and their submittals. And there's oftentimes, some refinement there. I just think that we should actually, whenever possible, opt for what is both effective and aesthetically, complementary to the library, and that's possible.
So Lynn, I think, the first floor where the lobby is, I mean, it's still there, but when you go upstairs, not many people go up there. I know they want to use it, but that would be a surface mount, I would think, instead of,
Yeah.
So,
You're right. That could be, and there's lots of attic space up there, as you know, Dave.
Yeah.
We would also be sprinkling the attics.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yes.
complicated because we have unheated attics that would have to have a dry system, and there'd be a combination of dry system and wet system, I would think. So I felt when I saw the cost estimate for this that it was optimistic. But
so Lynn, I believe that the Valley Road School, well, the Valley Road School, I'll just call it, has a dry system up in the attic on top of the stage.
yeah, it's all actually, the whole thing is dry.
Yeah. I know we used to have to go up there because it used to lose air pressure and everything, so.
I know. I can hear it sometimes when it's pumping up. Anyway, folks, I think that the most important thing is to sort of get this in front of FinCom, get this out, get this in front of town meeting, and move this project along. And I do think that we certainly can sort of volunteer to have CPC members attend the meetings, and I certainly can ask that we get the weekly reports so we really can understand what is going on.
It would be good if people who are talking to the public use the same kind of idea consensus, like when Tony goes out and speak to people at his meetings, or when he talks from the village church, that some of the ideas we talk about here now, he also uses them. So we're all talking the same language.
Good point. So further discussion on this motion? Are we ready for a vote? All in favor of the motion to accept this as revised? Nancy?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Austin?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Glad you're still with us,
Oh,
Paul.
there he is.
I'm back from the dead.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you,
All right,
Ellen.
Ellen, if you could just scroll down further, there's a couple of other dibs and dabs that I did here.
So where do you want me to go? 7?
Just keep going down. Yep. Okay, then the next 3. So I've offered a specific article for the $3,225 that would go into the housing reserve. Just to remind you, we're looking 10% of our $432,000 and change would be $43,000 and change. The housing article is for 40,000. So that net difference would go into the housing reserve. Okay. And then next, our friends at FinCom were troubled by the the amount being appropriated coming at the end of the article for these bonds. So I moved it forward. So it starts by saying to appropriate $184,000. But these are minor changes in terms of sequence, but they felt it was important. And I also ran it by Allison. So if you could just keep scrolling down. a
Wait, can
little
I
bit,
ask a
Ellen.
question about number 10?
Sure.
Why are we putting this after the big bond? Why don't we retire the bond first in the sequence of these uh, proposals?
Because
Don't you think that?
I consider these housekeeping articles, Paul. And
Okay.
the first 6 articles are new business. So I kind of consider this, old business and housekeeping.
So is it clear that this 184,000 is coming from, it's coming from the same funds from the 500 plus 2, isn't it?
No, it's
No?
coming from our appropriations. It's
Oh, I see. Okay. So it's coming from the appropriate, I understand. Okay, fine.
Yeah. It's coming from the appropriations.
Okay.
So the same thing with these other, and you'll notice, just love the math on this, is that of that $184,000 and change, we are using what is left of this year's fiscal year 26 appropriation. After we back out the other articles, we have $51,000 and $945 available from that fiscal year 26. We pull the rest of what's needed here to fund that 184,000 from the general reserve.
You're missing a comma in here and a 91 cents from somewhere, because when you take this and this, you end up with 91.
I know, and I fixed it on another article. I
Okay.
didn't sort of fix it for here, but
Right.
yes. And that after these other articles come from the general reserve. So next is the
Is there an Article
500,000.
9 missing?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, so, yeah, I think it's just because she put in a space and it was numbering. That's all.
Okay, so the numbers need to be changed.
Yeah,
Right.
All right.
So you have an updated version of this, right, Lynn?
I do.
Okay.
And then these other articles, they're drawing from the reserves to be paid.
These down here.
What's 11 and 12?
Oh, sorry.
So we draw down our reserve and then we feed it again with the rest of this, which is, we go down to the clawbacks. We basically claw back $104,000 and change. They wanted to actually have a more consolidated version of this than what I initially had drafted. So that's why it's highlighted in yellow. You're
Yeah,
seeing
that's a great idea.
you're seeing something different.
Yeah. I'm sorry you had so much work to do, but it's a great idea.
No, it's just,
So should this say to move or I move right here? Right.
I am literally using what Allison gave us.
Okay.
So
And I'm.
Who-
Yep.
Who's the speaker?
That's what I'm, well, kind of what I am asking. Yeah.
Who is I?
So what she's doing, and I'm happy to actually work with her to say, do we really want to have it read that way?
Yeah, right.
Because each of these will have a motion associated with them, and the motions don't go into the town warrant. The motions, are sort of read on town meeting floor. They're
Yeah.
drafted with FinCom. So, but you're right to call that out, Ellen. That is a bit awkward. So,
Well, because all these others say to recommend,
Yeah.
to appropriate. to
Right.
move, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. I trust you.
Okay. All right. Listen, it's going to go to FinCom and something else is going to happen. So just get ready for that. Okay, the last thing that was raised by FinCom actually goes to Article number 1, which is the flagpoles. And so members of FinCom were wondering, why are we why are we funding these flagpoles? And has it actually been worked out with town administration? Because there was a design that was prepared for Veterans Park with a circle, kind of a circular pattern of flagpoles. So Dana, I see that you're on the call, and maybe you could explain, have you coordinated with the town administrator on this and those involved in taking care of Veterans Park?
Yeah, the town veterans agent, John Lazar, has had conversations with the town administrator, and I've talked to the superintendent of the DPW. I've also walked the site a number of times, and there appears to be space for 2 flagpoles on either side of the footpath that goes into the circle of flags.
Is there a drawn up plan somewhere? Sorry.
Is there a plan?
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if a plan was ever drawn up for this when
No.
Veterans Park was established. I mean, they must have done something because
Right.
it was
No,
built. It was built with something.
Nancy, that's a really good question. I wanted to respond to that. No, I mean, I did walk the site and it looks feasible. This is to get the funding. The next step would be for the superintendent of the DPW to find a contractor at around that number of 9,000 and change. They could do the work, and then the design seems to be in place already. A circle of flags, if you can imagine, from above. But I would definitely encourage the members of CPC to take a walk down there. And you can see by walking on the path that goes into the circle of flags that there is apparent space for 2 more flagpoles. So that, to me, covers the potential design. It doesn't necessarily change the design materially. And the coordination part of it, yes, like I said, the town veterans agent, John Lazar, has spoken to the town administrator about it.
Was that fairly recent, Dana? Because I had a call from the town administrator last week about this.
And it was about I don't know, six weeks ago, maybe. And what was the call about the flags? Did he not know about it?
No, he certainly knew about it, Dana. I think it was raised at FinCom, and the question really was, had this been coordinated with the town administrator and the design of the existing park? I actually was down there this morning myself. I appreciate your suggestion about walking it. Unfortunately, I was having trouble with my phone, so I wasn't able to send photos to the committee. It looks like I will agree with you conceptually. It looks like there's 2 places that flags could go immediately on either side of the walkway. But again, I didn't get the sense from the town administrator that he and his staff and his DPW were all lined up on this. So I think there's further coordination that would be wise to attend to.
Okay. We could certainly do that, answer any questions. This is for the funding of it and the design piece. It seems like there's space for it.
But does this $9,000, this pays for the flagpoles and their installation?
That's right.
And the price was derived by whom?
By me, I got some quotes from some flagpole businesses in the area.
Because what I observed when I went there this morning too is that there's lighting at the base of those flagpoles.
Yeah, that's just for the American flag.
No, there's lights at each of those flagpoles.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I was actually struck by that, Dana, because I don't actually remember them ever being lit. But
They
and
are.
that is that's the problem with the in-ground fixtures sometimes, is that they can be tricky. But
Yeah, this grant application does not provide for lighting on those poles.
okay.
So the lighting requirement is when you fly the American flag 24 hours a day, and it doesn't always come on right at sundown. It's set on a clock, not set on a light sensor.
Okay. I'm just trying to look at my photos now. Well, as I said, this was questioned at FinCom. I wanted to bring this back to the committee. In the email that I sent out earlier today, and I had meant to include photographs, but I wasn't able to do that. Take a look at Veterans Park and take a hard look at this.
Lynn, I just want to say I did have a chance to go down earlier this evening and take a look at them. I also saw, the one location where the two new poles would have to go, on either
Yeah.
side of that path.
Yeah.
But I also confirmed, and looking back at the application, that what he applied for is two fiberglass poles. All the poles there are also fiberglass.
Yeah. Yep.
And there were concerns about, I don't know, I remember the question coming up about whether the poles would be strong enough given the weather in that area. And it does say in the quote that Dana got that they're rated for up to 125 miles per hour.
That's good. That's good to be reminded of that. Well, thanks for taking that extra look, Austin. I enjoyed a wet walk this morning, taking a look at it myself. So, and I think, Dana, it just makes sense to just reach out to Tony and make sure that you're speaking with him directly about this, since something, there's been something raised about it.
Okay, and then so my next step is to talk again with Tony about it, and what would my deliverable be?
You could just simply relay the conversation that you've had a conversation and Tony's on board with this. I mean, obviously what happens is it will fall under him to administer this.
So all right, which I'm perfectly happy to do again. And is the committee generally favorable, or they're not ready to vote on it because the town administrator objects?
We already had voted.
Oh, okay.
So I'm bringing, last week I went to FinCom. This was the last article that we discussed. We went backwards on this. By then, I think everyone was exhausted. What do you think, Paul? You were there.
Yep. You soldiered on, Lynn.
I soldiered on.
In fact, we're going to put you up on a flagpole.
Yeah, no, yeah, really. Anyway.
Well, with that, I would like to thank the Community Preservation Committee for supporting it. This is a small appropriation, and it's not going to change anybody's lives, but I think it would add some value to the Veterans Park. I'll meet with Tony, and then my guess is that the FinCom needs to hear something to approve it.
Yeah, I think FinCom will be looking at it on Thursday. We have put it forward. Our committee has voted on it. I don't see that changing unless there's a motion to change it. But I do want to urge the coordination with Town Hall.
So Lynn, I have one comment.
Yep.
when we decided to put the Veterans Park down there, I know we had to go in front of the Conservation Committee to get an order of conditions. And at that time, there was a plan that was devised by the Superintendent of Public Works. So I don't know if that's still around or not, but we had to get
Hmm.
approval in a wet zone.
That's a great point. Thank you, Dave.
So it's in a wet zone now?
It's in a wet zone?
In a wet zone, yep.
Well, putting 2 more flags in there isn't going to do more damage. It just means that they're no more durable than the other 7.
No, the reason why we have to
No,
get
it's going to have, yeah, he's going to have to get an order of conditions.
Is that right? Really?
I believe so.
Well, that was
Oh,
for the
that's
whole,
interesting.
wasn't that for the whole park? I mean, are we talking about just for
'cause
the
you're-
flagpoles?
You're adding on, so I believe you have to get one. I mean, that's my concern, because, yeah, we filled that in with dirt and everything when they did the sewer project, and that's where all the fill came from. And we had to put hay around and everything, so I would just, talk to Tony about it. Maybe you don't have
Yeah.
to, but.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Dave. Thank you.
And
So
could
it's
you
another
just
point.
summarize one more time, Dave?
So
What you need?
you might need an order for conditions from the Conservation Committee, because you're digging in a wet zone, a wet area. Because you're close to the beach and that place always floods. So I would just check with Tony and the Conservation Committee to see if you really need order of conditions.
An
this-
order of condition?
Conditions.
It's less than, my understanding is the Concom requires something if it's 1,000 square feet.
I don't know.
No,
I was out there
no,
with-
No,
No.
100. If it's
Okay.
within 100 feet of actually a flagged area that's considered wetlands.
Okay, so, all right. Order of conditions from the Concom. So I have to get on the Concom meeting.
No, what you would start with, Dana, is start with Tony
Tony.
and ask him if this would actually require Concom approval.
Okay, and he would have the chapter and verse of what that requirement is coming from.
He would actually be able to direct you on that.
Okay.
The reason why I know, because I was on the committee for over 20 years. And I've seen some shady stuff going on, so.
Yeah, this is going to throw some shade, all right.
Yeah, will it? Yeah. You know where the bodies are buried.
Dave, you are like the memory. So, okay. Well, folks, with that, I think these are the points that I wanted to raise in tonight's meeting. Let me ask you if there are any other thoughts or concerns about our articles and moving these forward to FinCom.
I do not have any concerns about what we have discussed on these articles. I'm in favor of moving them all forward as we discussed. I do have a question about the email we received earlier this week, Lynn, if that was worth it to bring up to the committee about the extra application out of time.
Ellen, why don't you report on that?
I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up like that.
I completely forgot about it, but go ahead, share that story.
I mean, it's just, we received, last week, we received an application for CPC funds through the online form. This person had not gone through, had not researched the two-step process we have, right? They just submitted an application requesting, it was a $5,000 amount, and they were going to put in $1,000 for split rail railings along the trails at Bailey's Hill. And it was a private party. I I don't know them personally. I think Lynn might know them, but I don't know them. So I just, I quickly coordinated with Lynn and she asked that I reply to them that we weren't taking applications. You know, for this coming fiscal year, we're all done, and that maybe this person would want to coordinate with the Open Space and Recreation Committee on their idea. And so I did that, and I'm happy to share the email exchange I had with the committee if you want to see, but that came up this
Yeah.
week. And it came via the form, not via the anything else. It was just out of the blue.
Yeah, it's interesting because it was an application from somebody who actually had applied a year ago in the last round for providing handicapped access to the beaches.
Oh, is that same person?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I didn't
So
even know you-
it's very interesting because our stuff has been all over the place, we think, but it makes you realize that maybe the word isn't getting out to every household that we have a application process with deadlines and it's all
Right.
tied to town meeting. So all I can say is that, you know, when we have the chance, both in the way that you did, Ellen, but when we have the chance in other venues to help people understand our grant application process, you know. But yeah, no, she was very aware that we have that we make applications that then move
Oh.
on to town meeting.
Yeah, I didn't even get into it. I just thanked her
Yeah,
for her
yeah.
application and gave her the link to where she can
Right.
get more information on our two-step process now.
Yeah. And she may very well want to reach out to open space. I think that makes a
Sure.
lot of sense.
Yeah, I haven't heard back from her since I sent her that.
But it's not
Well-
only open space, it's the town with the same issue about the flags. It's town property.
Yeah.
So the town has to make that decision.
Well, but Nancy, I think what they could do, she could go to open space and say, here's something that I'm thinking about. Does it
Yeah.
make sense to you? And then open space would make the application. That's the way you've been doing things for Bailey's Hill in the recent
Yeah.
past.
But primarily, it's too late.
This year, it's too late,
Exactly.
for sure.
Way
exactly.
too late.
And I
Way too
told her
late.
that. I was very clear. I was nice, but I was clear.
Yeah. Well, guess what, folks? There's another chance to be part of a FinCom meeting on this Thursday at 6:30, in case anyone wants to be part of that. I I will then be reset because I have been in communication with Bob and Barbara and that whole committee. I've been shepherding these revisions along to them. I've asked them to distribute to their committee members in advance. I will be doing that again.
I'll
And
join you, Lynn. No worries.
Is
All
there
right,
an
fine.
issue if more than a couple of us, if we show up in a majority, didn't Tony make that point that it was like we were,
A meeting?
yeah. Is that weird?
I don't know.
Okay,
He said that, but I can't see that being the case because it's not our meeting.
right.
It's not a joint meeting. Lynn is, quote, testifying, unquote, and explicating as a representative of our committee, but the committee is not there. So I think that's kind of silly, to tell you the truth. But it's a question Tony raised, so I have no idea if it's valid or not. Doesn't seem substantive to me. But
Yeah.
what do I know?
Well, that may be an argument for only having two of us or maybe three of us be at the meeting, so we don't have to post it.
Or you can just show up and be anonymous. You don't have to say who you are.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, since I didn't ask if anyone would take the minutes tonight, I'm volunteering to take the minutes.
I have been taking minutes, Lynn.
Oh, Austin,
Sorry, I should have mentioned it.
my hero.
Oh my
I also,
God.
I had sent out the minutes from March 17th, last Monday.
Yeah, I don't think we got to
Oh.
them, did we?
Oh, we didn't get to them. Oh, gosh. So do we still have time and energy to do it?
Um,
They can't be posted until we approve.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, because when's our next meeting after this, right?
next
Do we have
year.
one?
Next year.
Right, exactly. I'm saying. if we
No,
have
that's
Yeah.
that's another good question. Should I reserve another meeting, Lynn, or what?
No, I don't. At this point, no, no.
I know it
I'm saying
just encourages me, right?
it does. It does. But I would love it. Ellen, are you able to pull up?
Yeah,
Since you've
I'm
got the
looking at my
screen?
email right now. Hang on. When
If
did
you
you send
could.
Yeah, he sent them out, I
the
believe,
24th.
a week ago. Yeah.
Give me a second. Drop it. So are we looking for the 3/17 meeting minutes? Is that it?
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct.
Yes.
Okay,
It's only
sec.
one page. It shouldn't
Yeah,
take
hang
long.
on. I just found them. You guys seeing it?
Yep.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think Barbara Beatty's name is spelled with 2 T's. How's that for being granular?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll
very
change
good.
that now.
Oh, so you'll make the edits, Austin?
Yes, I can make the edits.
Yeah,
Okay,
he makes the edits and then and sends them to Diane.
okay.
Well, these are gorgeous. I move that we accept these minutes as presented.
Can I have a second for that?
I second Nancy.
Okay. We're going to move to a vote to accept the minutes. All those in favor, Nancy,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Dave.
Yeah. Aye.
Okay, very good. Minutes accepted. If you could make that one little typo change and send that along to Diane, that would be marvelous.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Now, what's the other motion that I'm longing to hear?
Motion to adjourn.
Ah! Thank you, Dave. And who wants to second that?
I will
I'll do
second
that.
it, Nancy.
Oh, no, let's let Nancy do it.
It's a competition.
Yeah.
All
No,
those in
Nancy's got it.
favor. Nancy got it. All those in favor of adjourning at 8:03 on the 31st. Nancy,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all. You have been stalwarts. We'll get through this.
Well, I want to
Thank you.
express
really-
my gratitude and admiration for you, Lynn. You've done another gangbuster season.
Well,
And-
I don't know about this. I do think our two-step process was helpful.
Oh, yeah.
And I really
Right.
appreciate the efforts that you, Ellen, and Nancy did to
Yeah,
initiate that.
it was a great idea.
It's a really
great
good
idea.
idea.
It really worked out. Really worked out
We-
well.
Yeah, yep. So I know I think we're still being recorded, but I
Yeah.
Yeah.
simply want to go on record to say you are a gangbuster group of people to work with. That's all I want to say. It's wonderful. So thank you so very much.
So much
No more
appreciated.
meetings except for Thursday at FinCom, perhaps, right?
Yeah, I think that's it for a while.
All right.
And that's
All
not
right.
our meeting, right?
No,
For
it's
the record.
FinCom. Yeah, it's FinCom. Okay. All
All right,
right.
everybody.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
thank you.
Be well.